back to Big Daddy's kitchen. Today we're going to do a little steamed cabbage. Now you're going to go, wow, that's no big deal, no big deal at all. Just a small head of cabbage. But the reason I'm doing this is my neighbor gave me some cabbage soup the other day, and I kind of ended up eating all the cabbage out of it. So I'm going to try and see, even though I've got a bunch of the broth left, I'm still going to try and see if I can stretch this out a little bit. And I got a couple other things I'm going to add to it. So if you've never cored or cut up a cabbage, it's real simple. Cut the end off so it'll be steady. Take your hand, your knife, cut it right down the middle. Okay. That's the core. If you take a knife, a real sharp knife, come in at it with an angle, not straight, because we want to save as much of the cabbage as we can. So I'm going to push that in just like that, cut it like this, come over here, just keep your fingers out of the way, don't it's too hard. Just takes a little bit of practice. And then usually there's a little bit of core left, which is okay. I can just kind of take my knife, shave that off, shave it off a little bit more. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Okay. Until you get this cord out, because it's tough. Just a little bit right here left. Okay. I'm just going to take it and turn it like this. Now, depending on how you want your cabbage, it's fine. I'm just going to cut it right down the middle. I'm going to hold it like this. Then I'm going to come right here. Maybe that's probably, what, an inch in. I'm just going to cut it like this. Hold it right here. Hold it right here. Then I'm going to take, I'm going to lay it down on the side, all three pieces together, and I'm going to cut it just like that. And I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this in my steamer pot. Yeah. I've got some, a little bit of onion flavor. Now you can put onions in here if you want. This dish already has onions in it, so I'm not going to worry about it. Again, with this piece, I'm only going to cut it in half because it's a little smaller. Cut this like this. Put this in there. You'll be surprised. So now there's a couple ways that you can do this if you want. I was always taught just to take the knife, push it in, pop that core out, and you can see the core's completely gone. And again, I'm going to take the scoop like this, and maybe we can go like this. Remember, cabbage is going to cook down. The biggest percentage of cabbage, I don't know what it is water. But that's about even all the way across. I'm going to take this one, I'll pop this in. And as you can see, the steamer pot's full. Before I did is I put some seasoning in the water. I put everything in the water but salt. And I'm gonna wait till this comes to a boil to add salt to it. Because if you've ever had the same experience I've had with salt, is if you put it into a non-boiling pot, it's gonna go to the very bottom of the pot. And so, but I'm gonna show you the mixture when I get ready to do it. I'm gonna go ahead and steam this. Then once it gets hot, I'm gonna add some kosher salt to it. Then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna add this broth mixture to it and see if I can find another couple of goodies in the refrigerator. So, see. Well, the cabbage has been steamed, but I did a couple things that I didn't show you. I had some leftover celery and a few leftover carrots that I took, and this was not the green part of the celery. These were the celery hearts, which is the inside part. I took them, I strung them, split them, and just cut them up real, small. Same thing that you would do for probably a soup or anything like that. Same thing, I had a few carrots. I put them in there and I basically steamed all that together. But the thing about this is, you can see this is in the crock pot. Okay, so I did not cook this cabbage and everything else all the way down. I cooked it to what I guess the Italians call al dente, which is to the tooth. And if I didn't tell you before, my neighbor, who's a very, very dear friend of mine, him and his wife, their family's great people, he gave me some cabbage soup. And it was really good, but I ate pretty much most of the good stuff out of it. I still had the broth. And I wasn't going to let it go to waste. And I still had what we had, if you've watched one of our other videos, I don't know if it's been posted or not, I had a little bit of grandmother's soup left. It wasn't enough to do that. But both of these were tomato based. Both of these two things are tomato based. Okay. In the cabbage soup thing, there was still some ground beef, some onions, and everything else. So I didn't add onions to my cabbage and everything else. Okay. So I'm sure this has happened to you, because this originally was supposed to be like this. But I put the two tomato soup broths, mixtures, leftovers, whatever you got. And that's another. Let me explain something to you. I was fortunate to work for a chef in Birmingham who's been in Birmingham for a while. And one thing that you'll learn if you work in a small family restaurant is you have to repurpose stuff. The worst thing that can irritate me or piss me off, and that's the exact word, and my wife will tell you, is to throw away leftovers that can be used or reused. And I'm not talking about a half-eaten ham sandwich. I'm talking about if you do fried chicken and you have some leftover fried chicken, you can make a chicken salad. You can make this out of it. It just irritates the crap out of me for people just to throw it away. So this is what I did with this recipe. Well, as you can see now, I put the cabbage in here, and like I said, it was not completely done all the way. The cabbage, the celery, and the carrots. And I added some kosher salt to it. Added some other stuff. I mean, a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, and I tasted it. Remember, so there's one thing that I was taught. I must check the broth. Tastes good. Seasoning's fine. Remember, when you season something, you can always add, but you cannot take away. Trust me, I have screwed more stuff up than you'll ever do. But anyway, this is all repurposed. I'm going to give you a rundown on this, okay? The cabbage was, I don't know, Jennifer got it at the store for me, probably a couple bucks, maybe. The other stuff I had in the refrigerator. I had the carrots, had the celery. They were going to go bad. There wasn't enough of the carrots to make a meal out of. There wasn't enough of the celery to cut up and use for celery sticks and dip and stuff like that. So I just took what I had in front of me and I made this. And the biggest thing is when I put this stuff, it kind of grew. You've had this problem before, I'm sure. It got from being a small, but the cabbage, like I said, it was not cooked all the way. And it's been simmering for, I don't know, a couple hours, I guess, right now. And I looked in here and I noticed that in the original recipe, and I'm not sure I can get that from him. And like I said, I appreciate what they do for us. They've done a lot for our family. And that's something that you can't take away. They're great people. Their family's great. And I saw it was, you know, there's ground chuck in there. I don't know his exact recipe. There was onions in here, and everything else. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna see if I can add a little something. So I went to the back. Oh, one other thing I did. The two broths that I had, the tomato bases that I had, we can just use that word, from the grandmother soup and the cabbage soup that he had, wasn't really enough juice for me. So we had made some homemade. It's a homemade base for either spaghetti sauce or chili. And we
the
got
grandmother vegetable soup.
we got a bunch of tomatoes. We parboiled them. We cut them, smushed them, cooked them, and Jennifer canned them. And we're going to make chili tomorrow. So I decided, well, let me go ahead and open this up now, and I'll save her some, and I add a little bit of this to it, and it gave it just a whole different flavor. But see, nothing went to waste. It didn't really cost me anything, except for the little bit of time. And then I said, well, I got to do one more thing, because if you've worked in the kitchen before, and some of you people out there are probably greater experts than me, and I'd love to hear your comments. I went out and I said, well, I need something in here to sort of offset this, not only offset this color, but I want to see if I can add a little different texture maybe. So I went and I got in the back, I got a can of black beans. And so I took a can of black beans. My cat. I took a can of black
There's
beans.
the cameo.
And I put the black beans in here, and I drained most of the liquid, but I wanted a little bit of that black bean liquid in here, so I put a little bit of that black bean liquid, added a little more salt, added a little bit more black pepper, and I cook with kosher salt. Some people cook with regular table salt. I prefer kosher salt. That's how I was trained. That's how that's the way it was. But now I'm letting it finish simmering to everything, to these black beans get nice and tender. The cabbage is still just a little bit al dente. It's getting there, and I know it's late, but I don't eat until later on. But I thought you'd enjoy this, and it's not so much about this simple recipe. It's to me about being able to use something and appreciate something that your neighbor or your friend gives you. Because if there's nothing else that irritates me worse than anything else, is that somebody that does something for you, people don't appreciate it. The second thing is, my wife will tell you, is take whatever you have in your refrigerator or your freezer and make something out of it. There are so many resources out there now, the internet, everything else. You don't have to be like I had when I first started cooking. I had so many cookbooks I couldn't hardly read half of them. But there's so many resources. Don't let your stuff go to waste. And remember, I always appreciate people that do something good for you. And I'm gonna pause this right now. I'm gonna let this simmer. And when we get back, I'm gonna see if I can plate this up for you and let you look at the finished product. But anyway, and as always, and I'll tell you this if I forget it, please give us a comment. This is probably going to be on Facebook. Give us because there's one thing I think all people can agree on. We all have to eat. We all have different preferences. We all have different tastes. But that's what makes it so fun to talk to people about it. That may not be your preference, but it's still something you can learn. So, Jen's going to pause this now. We're going to let this simmer, and hopefully in a little while, we're going to have some repurposed cabbage soup. All right, look, I got a couple apologies. One is for the lighting. The second one is because I wasn't looking at the camera all the time. Now, we told you this was a repurposed meal, apart from what my neighbor gave me, some stuff we had. So I'm going to make a challenge to you all. We're going to play this up in a minute. I'll make a challenge to you. Get what you got in the refrigerator or the freezer. Use it, make something, and then call me. Okay, now I'm not going to put this in a regular bowl because I may not eat all this. Plus, I got this big crock pot, so I got to do something with it. So I'm going to take this and get this up. And I don't know if you can see what it looks like. This is not a culinary masterpiece or anything, but we're going to try and make it. That's kind of pretty much what it looks like. And if we want to get a little bit fancy, and we'll just do this just for whatever. But I'm gonna try something. We'll just put a little bit of. We'll put a little bit of parsley on here, and we could put whatever. Doesn't really change the thing. It's not a big deal. But I'm gonna take something, and I'm just gonna use this. If I can do this.
Whoops.
This is some homemade bread Jennifer made. And I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to put this right down here, just like this. Maybe a little piece just like this. And I just kind of took this and this. Just made a little triangle out of it. It's not perfect, but you know, I'm just going to kind of set that right down in there and put some of that goodness right over there. And we got a couple little things right. Look, this is not a culinary meal. The whole thing about this, guys, is this was something that we did with some stuff that I know it looks stupid. What I would normally do is I'm going to take this right now, and I'm going to put this bread, and I'm just going to shove this right down here underneath this and cover this up, and have some of that stuff. But then I'm going to take a little bit of this broth right here. And I'm just going to pour right over the top of that bread. And now look. This is not for those people that have that can go out to eat at every fancy restaurant every day, because that's not us. This is about us taking stuff that we had that a friend of ours gave us, and we've got to try it. Okay, well, let's just kind of get here real quick. And what I did was, this is something that I learned in a restaurant. If you're cooking, and this really happens a lot with beans, if you wonder why a lot of times your beans, you cook beans, homemade, fresh beans, and they're mushy, it's because you overcook them. So I learned this. If the beans are close, your collard greens are close, you're cooking them, and they're close, you're not quite ready to serve them, they're not quite done, turn them off and leave them on, and they'll continue to cook, and usually they'll be just right. Okay? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's nice. The seasonings are good. The cabbage is not mush. Broth's good. We can do one thing. A lot of people will do this. I'm going to take just a little bit of this hot sauce right here. I'll put my thumb over this. Just going to sprinkle a little bit of this on here just like that. And that's going to be good enough for me. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want you to do something for me. Write me some comments and tell me what you have in your refrigerator that you've cooked, that you've made use of. Oh, and I'm going to leave you with one thing. I told you I've got one more bite. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hot sauce doesn't overwhelm. This adds to it the bread, adds a little texture, adds a little thickness to it. So, I did this with homemade bread Jennifer made. If you've got a couple leftover biscuits in your refrigerator or your freezer, take them, cut them. You can put that over soup. Changes the whole texture of it. Now, I got a friend, like I told you, my neighbor, his wife was gracious enough to, give me some of the leftovers and stuff like that. And we really do appreciate that, because my stepson especially does when it's deer season and stuff. But I got one thing for you. I'm going to leave you with this thought. You got great friends like that. Appreciate them. But always do one thing for me. Always go prepared with your own Tupperware bowl. See you, and I hope you enjoy the video.